Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Andrea and I am an Etsy seller. I've been an Etsy seller for almost 8 years now, which is absolutely crazy to say. And this is my YouTube channel where I share all the things I have learned in the past and all the things I am currently learning about Etsy. So it's all about Etsy. Today specifically, we are going to be talking about 5 things that you need to start an Etsy shop. Okay, so before we even dive into the 5 things, I am assuming that if you are watching this video, you are likely in the early stages of your Etsy business. You might even be not even started yet. You might be one of those people that are trying to decide if you should sell on Etsy, or you are just beginning, you haven't opened your account yet, you just have your craft. Basically, I'm assuming that this is people that are watching this video are in the early stages of their Etsy business. I am a huge advocate. I really believe that one of the most important things that you can do for your Etsy business is have a solid framework. And I cover that in my free masterclass. I just wanted to tell you guys about it right away because I think it's such a valuable resource for Etsy sellers. It's a 3-step framework. I dive in completely in my masterclass, and that is all linked in the description. Like I said, totally free, but I wanted to talk about that first before we dive into the 5 things that we're going to cover that you need before you start an Etsy shop. Okay, so these 5 things have a lot lumped into each one. Not that I am not a huge proponent that you need a ton to start your Etsy shop. I'm definitely more of the type of person that's jump and then figure it out. That's my personality. And so that definitely comes out in my Etsy advice. However, there are some things that you need, and we're gonna dive into those. The very first thing that you need is an Etsy account, an item to sell, and good photographs of that item. And so when I say that, I mean that 1, you have to be on a seller account in order to sell on Etsy. That's a very technical thing that we're talking about. Of course, you have to have a seller account to sell on Etsy. The next thing that you need is an item to sell. What is allowed on Etsy is handmade or vintage items. Handmade and vintage, to be 100% honest, they're kind of liberal with that definition. So anything that you have had a hand in designing, whether you actually hand make that or you outsource the making of the product, as long as you have had a hand in designing it, digital or physical or actually handmade stuff, that is all lumped under handmade. And then vintage is anything that's vintage. I'm not sure if they have a year that has to be made before to be considered vintage, but that is what you can sell on Etsy. So the first thing that you need, or I guess in the first category of the first thing that you need, is an Etsy account, an item to sell on Etsy that is Etsy eligible. And then also you need good photos of that item. And so I, of course, like I said, I'm the type of person that wants to just start stuff. And I definitely think that sort of personality trait is good in business, but it can also be bad in business. One thing that I think is absolutely integral to having a good start on Etsy is good photos of your item from the very beginning. To be 100% honest with you, I would make that a priority before you even open up the seller account. Make sure that you have some good photos of that item, some compelling listing photos, so that when you go to list your items, you can have those good photos to plug in. So that is my first thing that you have to have in order to sell on Etsy is the seller account, an item that is eligible to sell, and good photos of that item. The next thing that you are going to want to have as you work through listing items and setting up your logo and your shop header and all of those sorts of things, again, all of this is covered in depth in the masterclass. But before you start setting all of that up, you are going to want to have an ideal customer and also your brand voice. So this looks like picking a person that your items are meant for. Who are you talking to? Find out who you're talking to, and then you are going to want to find out the way that they like to be talked to. So just for my business, as an example, my Etsy shop is Saltwater Prep. We sell embroidered goods. You can't see you can't see my surroundings, but I'm in my shop right now with all my embroidery machines. Our items are geared towards young females who are trendy, love to travel. That is who we're talking to. That's my ideal customer. And then because of that, my brand voice is fun, it's light, it's bright, it's not somber or calm. And you can have any type of brand voice or ideal customer. If you're selling invoice templates, you are likely not targeting the same person that I'm targeting, and then also your brand voice will not be the same as mine. In the same way as if you're selling newborn swaddle blankets, you're not targeting young women with no kids, right? You're targeting newborn moms, and your brand voice might be more calm. So think about who you're targeting and then how they like to be talked to, and infuse that into all of your listing photos, all of your listing descriptions, your logo, your header. Your brand should scream like, yes, 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 I want that to your ideal customer. The third thing you are definitely going to need before you start on Etsy is a good bit of time to dedicate to listing your items. So I know that's not what everybody wants to hear, but you do want to have very strong listings. If you are new to this channel, we talk about that all the time. That's like what I talk about. My Etsy shop specifically gets 90% or more of my sales from Etsy SEO through Etsy search. And so I am very passionate about having very SEO strong, relevant, good, strong listings. And most of that stuff comes at the listing level. And that's what we talk about a lot around this channel. And so you are going to want to have a good bit of time to dedicate to getting your listings very, very good. Like, I don't know what word to use, but you want your listings to be very strong, I guess is a better word. And you don't just want to huck up a listing with no thought out keywords or not a good photo or no attributes filled out. You really want to take the time to list your items thoroughly and strongly and well so that they can be found in Etsy search. That's what we talk about on this channel all the time. And so if you're like, I don't even know how to do that, make sure to subscribe, because we talk about like best practices for Etsy and Etsy listings all the time on this channel. So the third thing that you are definitely going to need in order to start on Etsy is a good bit of time to dedicate to setting up your shop, and more importantly, or more specifically, I guess, setting up your listings in your shop. Okay, so the fourth and fifth things are actually tangible things that you are going to need to set up your shop on Etsy. The first three were kind of either digital or not, like a thing that you buy, right? Okay, so the fourth thing that you need to have to sell on Etsy is packaging and a postal scale. So you might not need a postal scale if you have an item that weighs the same every time, no matter what. You can go to the post office and weigh it one time if a postal scale is too much of an investment. However, if you have any sort of varying products at all, I have found it very much worth it to get a postal scale. I will link the postal scale that we use in the description below, and I can also link some of the packaging that we use. So the postal scale is like semi-business dependent, but the packaging really isn't unless you have a digital shop. So I guess both of these are semi-business dependent. Packaging, you are going to need something to mail your item in. And so this looks like, of course, there are tons of different options for sellers based on what they sell. Of course, it varies drastically. So for us, I'll just walk you through what we use and then a couple other options. We use poly mailers, and we get those on Amazon or Mailer USA, and we also have some custom ones that we had made. We also use bubble mailers, so they're just like poly mailers except for they have bubble like wrap built into it. I don't know how to explain it. They're padded. And then we also use thank you cards from Vistaprint. We have used boxes in the past. Normally we buy those from Uline. I'll outline all of this in the description and then link the Amazon ones that we have used in the past, the mailers that we have used in the past from Amazon. And I think that's it. I think that's the only packaging that we use. Obviously, you're gonna need like packaging tape and all that sort of stuff. So the fourth thing that you need, a physical item that you need to start your Etsy shop, is packaging and a postal scale. The fifth thing that you will definitely need is a good printer and a way to print shipping labels. I have a YouTube short. I don't know if I can link YouTube shorts in the cards, but if I can, I'll link it here. Actually, I think it's here. And I will also link it in the description below. But basically, you don't have to have a shipping printer in order to print a sticky shipping label. You can use label paper, which I will also link in the description below, that use your regular printer and feed it through, and it'll print out a sticky label. We are obsessed with them. We've shipped over 15,000 packages that way. Absolutely recommend it. It's a good way to get around buying two printers, but you definitely will need a printer and a way to print labels. So whether that be a shipping label printer and a regular printer, or a printer, a regular printer with label paper. You will need those two things. The last quick note that I want to make is that we have always used a laser printer rather than an inkjet printer, just because toner is so much cheaper than ink. So absolutely worth spending a little more on the printer in order to be able to use toner, just because it's a lot less expensive. So those are the 5 things that you need to start on Etsy. Like I said, I am definitely the type of person that jumps in and kind of figures it out later. And so I don't want you guys to get overwhelmed. I do want to mention that there's a lot of things that you don't need. There's a lot of things that you don't need to start on Etsy that people think you have to have in order to start. And I honestly just think it keeps them from starting. And so I want to talk about those. The first thing that you don't need to start is a business license. A lot of people think that you have to incorporate or get an LLC before you start selling on Etsy. That is not the case. You can actually start without a business license. This is obviously United States specific for the people that are watching me in other countries. I do not know your country's like laws, but in the US, you don't necessarily need a business license to start. The only caveat I would say is that if you are selling an item that could make you liable, like for instance, I don't think food's allowed, but say you were selling food and it could get someone sick and then they could come back and maybe file a lawsuit against you, you would want to have an LLC involved for that. But you don't necessarily need a business license to start. The other thing that you don't have to have, and a lot of people think you do, you absolutely do not need to have a ton of inventory. In fact, I personally think that's a very bad investment when you're starting out. You do not need a ton of inventory. You do not need to know your business plan for the next 5 years. You just need to know the next right step. You do not need to have everything figured out. You don't need to have your own website. There's a lot that you don't need. Etsy is an excellent place to start a business, to grow a business, to have a business. Etsy is an amazing platform for that. And so I do hope that this video was helpful for those who are starting out. If you are starting out and you are learning how to grow on Etsy and you're learning about all things Etsy related, I would absolutely love it if you hung out around here and subscribe, because that is what we talk about every week. We talk about how to grow on Etsy, Etsy best practices, how to stay motivated, all of those fun things. So please do subscribe, and I really hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching.